to get us jobs, and all you brought back was a hamburger?
Okay, I don't think it's a burger.
You haven't looked?
What the hell is that?
How did you get it to do that?
I think he likes me.
On this edition of Talking About the Movies, I take a look at DC's latest superhero movie. Does it make me completely forget about The Flash, or is it just on the same level as The Flash? Let's take a look at Blue Beetle Plus.
If you miss a line in the game, you reset. You missed it on the track, you could die.
Sony takes another crack at turning one of its video games into a motion picture. Uncharted didn't work, but does Gran Turismo work? We'll find out the answer to both questions today on Talking About the Movies. Welcome to another edition of Talking About the Movies, and yes, it's another double feature day here on the show, so it's Beetleismo, or... these combining these two titles, this thing is getting a little bit old. I mean, Barbenheimer works very well enough, but Turtledon and Beetleismo, I'm not doing that anymore. But as usual on this show, we take a look at the biggest new releases of the weekend, and we are going to look at the big new release this week, that is Gran Turismo. But we're going to get to that in a little bit later, because there was a big new release that came out last week that I didn't get to see because I opted for Last Voyage of the Demeter, and I finally got to see it today. So it's going to be one of those reviews. It's going to be longer than usual, so I would say go get you some snacks, go get something to drink, but we'll probably be here for at least under an hour, I hope. I won't have to go too far into these movies today, but with that said, we got a lot to get to today, so let's go ahead and just start off with the first movie that I saw yesterday, and that was Blue Beetle. So Blue Beetle is the second to last film in the DC Extended Universe before James Gunn takes it over and makes it into the new thing that's going to start off with Superman Legacy. After this, it's Aquaman and the Last Kingdom, and then that's it for that. But the hope is that Blue Beetle is going to stick around in the new universe, and after what I saw, I kind of hope he does too, but I digress. So the basic plot of Blue Beetle is that you have this alien scarab that chooses this kid named Jamie Reeves to be its symbiotic host, bestowing the recent college graduate with a suit of armor that's capable of extraordinary powers, forever changing its destiny, and becoming known as the superhero that we know as Blue Beetle. So there is a lot of elements to various other superhero movies. You see a little bit of Green Lantern in there, a little bit of Spider-Man as well, with the Venom story, with the Venom subplot, the Venom storyline, and then most notably you see Iron Man, because when you look at the costume and you look at the way the suit is like in the movie, it's very, very much like Iron Man. I mean, I think this movie kind of knows that it's taking from a number of different sources, a number of different places, from various comic books from the past, no matter if it's DC or Marvel, and even superhero movies in general, because really, this kind of feels like the first Iron Man movie. I mean, you have Jamie Reyes as kind of the Tony Stark of this movie. He's not this rich guy, but he kind of has a suit that's very similar to what Tony Stark would eventually build. And Susan Sarandon's character, the villain in the film, kind of reminiscent of Obadiah Stane's, Jeff Bridges' character in the first Iron Man movie a little bit. And I think the movie is more than aware that it's not going really for originality at this point. They're just trying to see whether or not this is a character that can actually work on the big screen. I mean, technically, this film was originally supposed to be a streaming movie. They started shooting it as a streaming film for HBO Max, and then when Warner Brothers decided to release everything everything from HBO Max that was set for the streaming service as a theatrical release, they put more money into it, and thus we have this film right here, which has very much of a big budget to it, about $100 million, but certainly better than the $300 million that a good majority of these movies we've had this summer have had. And I mean, it looks pretty good for a $100 million film. And I think the big thing about the film is that it's not going for anything serious. It's not going for anything that's seismic in terms of a story within the multiverse. I think we've pretty much been done with that after what The Flash did. I mean, at least it's nice to know that we're going to get a good film out of DC in 2023. Although I did like Shazam! Fury of the Gods, but I think this is probably the best film of the bunch here. It's not a perfect movie. It is very much a film that is very much ripping off other superhero movies, but like I said, I think the movie is very much aware that it's doing that, and they're just going in there to have fun with this concept. And this is a fun concept to have with here. Even though Blue Beetle's suit is very much like an Iron Man suit, they do give it those little changes that actually makes it unique and makes it very fun to watch. And the family overall is very fun to watch. Zolo Mariduena, who plays Jamie Reyes in here, I think does a very good job as the Blue Beetle. His family is very good here. Adrienne Bazzara is very good playing the grandmother in this. She has a really great scene in the end of the movie. George Lopez is pretty funny in the film too, which is really hard to believe to say for a guy like George Lopez. And Susan Sarandon's pretty good in the film as well. I do like the visuals of the film. You can definitely tell they put the money into it, but it definitely shows on screen. It's a very formulaic superhero origin story. I mean, like I said, they're pretty much aware of the fact that this is very much a story you've seen done to death so many times, but this time you haven't seen this character on a big screen like this. And I thought they did a pretty good job with it, and I do kind of want to see him more in future DC films. When I watched the trailers for this, I kept thinking back to Shazam. I feel like this has a very Shazam-esque vibe to it, because because there's a lot of family elements in there, and I like the family in Shazam. I like the family in this movie too, and I hope they continue Shazam into the next chapter, the next era of this DC era, as of this DC universe that they're building with James Gunn under center. But I hope they do. It looks like they're going to do the same thing with Blue Beetle too. I really want to see these characters come back in the next iteration of this and see what they can do with these characters under James Gunn's supervision. And I thought the movie overall was a ton of fun. I thought the performances were very good. Its heart is in the right place. It was a nice return to form for DC after what happened with The Flash earlier in the year. That movie is still abysmal. I tried to give it the benefit of a doubt by watching it again when it just came out streaming a couple days ago. Couldn't do it. Everything that I hated about that movie is still very much in there. This one feels like an earnest movie. It feels like they were trying. It feels like they were actually going for something. And it works very well. It's a very fun movie. It's a very fun film that delivers a lot of good fun action sequences. It's not afraid to go dark at times when it needs to, but it's a refreshingly nice change of pace. It has a lot of good jokes, a lot of good elements of emotional moments. The acting overall is very good. The direction overall is top-notch. Angel Manuel Soto, who did Charm City Kings for HBO Max, I think does a pretty good job with this as well. And the movie's just a ton of fun. It's nice to have a nice, fun DC movie again. Like, it's a good, fun film. It's a very enjoyable movie. I had a good time with it. I had a real blast with it. I do think it's a very fun film. The few nitpicks I have are very, very small, very, very, very minimal. I mean, I don't really have any major complaints towards the movie. Maybe the one major complaint is that it's not like is that the story is very predictable. But again, that's fine with me especially with what DC's been trying to do the last couple of years. It's nice to know that there's going to be at least a couple of good DCEU films I can still take from this. I can still take this movie. I can still take the first Wonder Woman movie. I can still take Birds of Prey. I can still take the Shazam movies. Aquaman. There's still some. This is probably one of the stronger films they've done in the DCEU so far, and I think it's good. I think it's a really solid, enjoyable film. It reminded me of what we got back in the days before we got the days of the MCU, stuff like the first Iron Man, stuff like Spider-Man. Like, there's even people that made relevance to, it's kind of relevant to something like Spy Kids in a way, and I could kind of see that. I could see that in a number of ways. Like, it doesn't feel like a big epic movie that needs a big importance to it. They just wanted to go in there, make a fun film, and then go from there. And I think they did a fantastic job with that. It reminds me a lot of what they did with Ninja Turtles. I mean, Ninja Turtles Mayhem is a great film, but it doesn't have anything there that really is like grand and epic, like it's setting up for something major and big. Like they just did a first film to see how people would take it at first. They're taking it pretty well, and now you can use the next movie to build whatever you're going to do with the next film, which is going to be the Shredder. In that film's case, I'm really excited to see what they'll do with this character going forward with this new DC era that's going to be taking place pretty soon. And like I said, I had a really good time with it. I had a very good time with it. I had a fun time. Good fun movie. The visual elements are very good. The superhero aspects are very good. The comedy is very good. I mean, the emotional moments are very good. It's a very solid, fun film. It's a fun Saturday afternoon blockbuster movie that you go to the movie theater to see when it's raining outside. It's a very good film. I had a lot of fun with it, and I definitely will say, seek it out, man, because it's definitely worth the watch. It beats the crap out of The Flash or any of these bigger movies that they've been trying to put out here the last couple of years. Like Black Adam is another one of those films. Like, yeah, I had a good time with it. Not much more to say about it, except that I really enjoyed it. I had a really good, fun time with it. Definitely check it out. I give it a big thumbs up. I had a really good time watching it. So definitely check out Blue Beetle. I think you will not be disappointed with it if you go into it with the right mindset. So that's Blue Beetle. Maybe we might get this done earlier than I thought it would. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, which is certainly no Blue Beetle. It's Gran Turismo. So Gran Turismo is, of course, based off the series of video games from Sony. This is actually the second film from their PlayStation production studio, where they also did Uncharted a year ago, which was not a good movie, despite the best efforts of trying to capture the video game, which it's incredibly hard to believe that a video game movie actually captures the spirit of the video game, and yet people still hate it because you took way too much from the video game. But Uncharted just had so many different problems here, and this film has almost about the same amount of problems, but it is based on a very interesting story. You have a story where it's not a straightforward adaptation of the video game, but they actually do something a little bit different, which I have to give them credit for. They basically take a true story about these team of underdogs, including a struggling working-class gamer, a failed former race car driver, and an idealistic motorsport exec who risk it all to take on the most elite sport in the world. Basically, they're taking players of the Gran Turismo video game and turning them into professional race car drivers. And this is supposedly based on something that actually happened in real life with this one kid, Jan Mardenborough. It's Jan Mardenborough, and he's played in this movie by Archie Medique. And you may have seen him in stuff like the show C on Apple TV, but most recently he was in Midsummer, the A24 film. And you also have Orlando Bloom, which I haven't heard from him since the Pirates of the Caribbean movies ended, so good to see him back, I guess. And David Harbour, David Harbour is awesome. No matter what you put him in, he will give it his all in whatever film you put him in. And it's directed by Neil Blomkamp, too. This is his first film since the infamous Chappie and also Demonic did not end up as well as they should have. This is the guy that directed District 9 and Elysium, and then after that, he just kind of cratered off a cliff. And honestly, when I was wondering, why does this only have a $60 million budget, and I see that Neil Blomkamp directed it, it's just like, okay, that makes a lot more sense, because that's the one thing I'll give Neil Blomkamp credit for. He can direct movies like this that should be big budgeted blockbusters and only spend about $50-60 million. I mean, District 9 was only made for $30 million. I think Elysium was more expensive than that. Elysium was $115 million. Then what was Chappie then? I'm actually looking on here just to see. I'm kind of curious now. Chappie was the one that Chappie went back down to $49 million, but on the budget on that. But Chappie was not that good of a movie, and sadly, as much as I give them a lot of credit for trying to do something different here, I just don't think they really lived up to the expectations of this one. This was kind of a boring movie, honestly. Like, I really did not get a whole lot of investment from any of these characters. We've seen these tropes in movies like this so many times. I mean, it says something when this movie takes a lot from Champions, the movie where Woody Harrelson takes on coaches this basketball team of was it mentally challenged kids? I can't remember. They had intellectual disabilities, which I think is, don't quote me on this, I think it's the same thing, but if it's not, I apologize in advance. But it felt like this. But when you see that movie and you see this film, they take a lot of elements from that movie. A lot of the elements of Champions is in this movie too, which is not a good sign for a film like this. I mean, I give them credit for trying to do something a little bit different, not doing a straightforward adaptation of the video game itself. I like that they tried to do something a little bit different here, but you still need a better story to balance out all the cliches in here. I mean, we could take the cliches of these underdog sports movies, these underdog sports dramas, but at the same time, you really need to give it a little bit more of an edge, to give it something, a unique difference, and something a little bit more creative than what we get here. I never really bought into the whole idea of this film really going to do as far as they can to make a quality film. I never really felt like they really went there to try to see what they could do with this. I mean, it's better than Uncharted, but that's not saying a whole lot. Uncharted was not that great to begin with, but I gotta give them credit for at least trying to do something a little bit different here. Even though, like I said, it just doesn't quite have that spark to really make it go the next level. As far as the casting goes, I don't think anybody in here was terrible. I mean, Archie Madawick is very good as Martinborough, and David Harbour. Like I said, David Harbour was great in this movie. He has actually some of the best moments of the film, some of the funnier moments of the movie. Orlando Bloom's just kind of there, and Jerry Holloway is there for some reason. Like, I don't understand why she has a role in this movie, except to just be the mother of the main character. And Djimon Hounsou is being Djimon Hounsou. I mean, Djimon Hounsou is a good actor, and he does carry his load here, but again, it's not really a whole lot there to make him stand out over some of these as a great performance overall here. Everybody here is just everyone's kind of just coasting along here and just going with whatever the script tells them to do. I also think maybe it's a little bit too long, too. It's a little over 2 hours long, which it drags a lot. For a movie that's about racing, it drags like crazy. Like, it's a real disjointed film overall, and it's a shame because the writers on here, Jason Hall wrote for Buffy. He was an actor who was on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but he wrote American Sniper. He also wrote Spread, which was a very underrated. I think that's an underrated Ashton Kutcher movie from back in 2009. And he also did Thank You for Your Service, which was a pretty underrated film as well. And Zach Baylin, who wrote one of the year's best movies in Creed 3, are the writers on here. And you kind of expect a little bit more with them on board. But, I mean, I'm being a little bit more negative towards the film than I think I should be. It isn't a bad movie per se. It's just a film that doesn't really deliver everything that I thought they promised us. Like they were setting up. Like, they have a good concept, a good director, and some good casting overall. But it's just not enough to get it over the edge to make me say, that's one of the best video game movies ever. And it's just like, it's just not there, man. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know what they really could have done here. I really think there could have been some better script writing to balance out the cliches and the storyline. If we didn't have a lot of the underdog sports drama cliches here, I think maybe we might have had something good here. But I mean, as far as it is, I guess I'm kind of glad I saw it, but I never really want to watch it again, honestly. I don't know. I just don't feel like it's a film that is warranted of a recommendation. I have to give it a thumbs down, a marginal thumbs down. No, I'd probably give it the same thumbs down I'd give to something like Make to the Trench, where there are parts that I thought were good, but they are stuck between a lot of mediocre and stuff that's not that great. So I can't really recommend it overall, and I don't think the film is worthy of its release. I don't think it's that good of a movie. As far as what they could really, I don't know what they really could do, honestly, with PlayStation Productions in terms of the movies. Like, what could they do to really get the spark to get over that edge? Because we've had 2 movies from them that were not that great. There were elements of promise, but just the overall finished product just didn't deliver. But then again, on the television front, they've been really good. This is the same company that gave us The Last of Us, which is one of the best video game adaptations, period. It's a great show on HBO. And then Twisted Metal is surprisingly a ton of fun for a show on Peacock. It's actually a really fun, entertaining show from the first couple of episodes I've seen from it. And, I don't know what they need to do to bring that kind of energy to the film department, because they have some other movies that they've got coming. They have a Jackson Dexter film as well coming soon, as well as Gravity Rush, Ghost of Tsushima, Days Gone. And I don't know. I don't really know what they need to do. Maybe the people behind the television department of PlayStation Productions and the film department of PlayStation Productions need to get together and work something out. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on Gran Turismo. Not a great film, but again, kind of like with Uncharted, there's brief flashes of promise. Just the whole film, the finished product just doesn't work in the end. So, yeah, we're already at the end of August, too, so I guess now it's time to give you a recap of all the movies that I looked at this past month. So let's go ahead and begin that. I gave a thumbs up to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I thought it delivered on everything the trailers promised us. Great animation, great characters, great voice work, great comedy. It's a nice start to this new franchise of films that they're starting to develop here. It's a new generation of Ninja Turtles elements and storylines that could be coming from this. A new twist on different characters we've come to know and love. I'm very excited to see where they go from here. Definitely recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it already. I gave a thumbs down to Make to the Trench. Just took way too long to get started. Even though the shark scenes, when they do happen, are very well done and very cool to watch, you have to trudge through a lot of filler to get to the good stuff, and it just wasn't worth it in the end. So I gave it a thumbs down. Make To the Trench, not worth your time. I do give a big thumbs up to The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which, if I know it's kind of too late to see this in theaters, but when it comes out on Blu-ray, when it comes out on streaming this Halloween, definitely check it out. It's a really damn good, dark, gothic Dracula film. Easily the best one of this year, despite the fact we had two from the same studio. But great film that a lot of people did not get to see. And like I said, when it comes out on this Halloween on Blu-ray and streaming, definitely check it out. It's one of the most underrated films of the year, and it will be a cult classic. I guarantee it. I also voted thumbs up on Blue Beetle, a good, fun superhero adventure film. It didn't need to do anything too big or too grand to expand the storyline. It just needed to make a good, fun movie is a good, fun family superhero adventure, and I think it delivered on all those things. It reminded me a lot of Shazam. I'm really excited to see what they do when James Gunn takes over DC and they bring these characters in. It'd be very cool to see what they do with this concept here. A lot of fun, great visuals, great acting, great comedy. Definitely recommend it. And finally, my thumb is down on Gran Turismo. Despite the fact that I give him credit for doing something a little bit different from a normal video game adaptation, it just wasn't enough in the end to really make me recommend it. It's too many cliches from the underdog sports drama elements. Not a whole lot of fun overall. A little bit too long, and you just don't really get invested into anything because you can kind of predict everything that's going to happen when it's all said and done. I give him efforts for trying. I feel like the television department of PlayStation Productions really needs to get to the film department and tell them how to make these adaptations work better. But here, thumbs down on Gran Turismo. So August is officially over, and that means we are officially done with the summer movie season. And I gotta say, I'm really convinced that this is probably a pretty good summer. I mean, we had a really good plethora of movies to watch, good fun films, really solid films overall. Very few bad films. I mean, we had The Flash, which was not that good, and we had Make To the Trench, Gran Turismo, Haunted Mansion. Those films didn't live up to the high expectations that I think a lot of us had set up for those films. But we did have a lot of good fun films. There were fun films overall. The Little Mermaid was a fun film. What was another one? Elemental was a really good fun film that I'm glad people found out later on down the road. I liked Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I know a lot of people didn't, but I thought that was also a lot of fun. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 was a good fun film. What else did we have? Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, of course, but Fast X was not a good film. That was one of the ones I should have put in the worst list. But we had good films. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was a good film. Barbie was a good film. Oppenheimer was a good film. Last Voyage of the Demeter, Ruby Gill, and Teenage Kraken were both fun films. Nobody went to go see, unfortunately. It's been a really solid year for movies. It was a good, fun year. It's been a good, fun year overall. There's been a lot of films that I've really liked. It's been hard to put together a worst of the year list, although there were films on there that I've talked about before and some that I've added since then. But yeah, pretty good summer, and I get a nice couple of weeks off. I know next week The Equalizer 3 comes out, but I won't be able to see it this weekend or next weekend because I'm going to the first two football games of the season on Saturday, and I'll have video of that on Movie Stop. But I will see The Equalizer 3 the weekend I see A Haunting in Venice, which should still come out on September 15th. I'm really looking forward to both of those movies, especially Equalizer 3. Denzel Washington is easily the greatest actor working right now, and the one series that he'll do more than one film for, so he must see something there. And the first two Equalizer movies are great films, so I'm very excited to see that. The first two Hercule Poirot movies are very good. Murder on the Orient Express, Death on the Nile. So I'm really excited to see what Kenneth Branagh brings to the table with A Haunting in Venice. But like I said, I get a couple weeks off from that, and by the time we hit that, there'll be a new intro for talking about the movies as well. So I'm going to work on that the weekend I go see those films, and that will be until the weekend of the 15th. So, like I said, I get a couple weeks off from that, and this week it's all about getting ready for all the big stuff happening starting with next Friday. Of course, we've got I gotta always remember to bring this out, because Channeling Entertainment, the 10-year history of the Reviewing Network, the book comes out on Friday. I will have the listings for it in a video coming up pretty soon. So definitely get your hands on that when that becomes available. And then it's all about all the stuff that's happening that weekend. We start a new season of Movie Stop on Saturday, and then Sunday we have the Reviewing Network live premiere. And then Friday, also on Friday, we have the premiere of Time About the Movie Flashback, our spin-off show, and it wraps up on Labor Day weekend with the premiere of the Reviewing Network Talks About. So a lot of big things happening on the channel the next weekend, so I hope you guys will be there for that. And thank you for watching. And if you saw Blue Beetle or Gran Turismo, let me know your thoughts down below. You probably are seeing it right now because today is National Cinema Day. I forgot to mention that. All the theaters have tickets for $4, so it makes the box office very interesting. And I'll have more than that on the other channel, the Reviewing Network Live, which go ahead and subscribe to that because we're 1 week away from starting our podcast on that channel. So definitely a lot of things going on here as we get ready to continue the 10th anniversary celebration of the site. So, like I said, if you saw Blue Beetle and Gran Turismo, let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time for the next video. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Until then, as always, take care.